Hi everyone, welcome to the Liquid and Nerdio webinar. Really good to see you. I'm joined by Gavin. Gavin, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Gavin Conley. I'm Field CTO at Nerdio. I'm really looking forward to today. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Ben, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Gavin. So I'm Ben Ward. I'm Field CTO UK and I at Liquid, which is now part of Recast Software. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. So Gavin, tell us a little bit about why we're doing this webinar today.
Well, I suppose, Ben, we talk a lot all the time, right? And there's never been more change in our space in the kind of end user computing, a virtualization space than there has been in the last 18 months to 2 years. We're talking all the time, on a one-to-one basis around trends and changes and direction of travel. And I suppose we wanted to bring that to the public forum in a way, I guess. So I think hopefully people watching will get some benefit from our discussion today. Does that
Well, they
make
better
sense,
do.
Ben?
Yeah, yeah. Look, this isn't a threat, but you better get some value from this today. So, based on the conversations that Gavin and I have, what we did a couple of months ago before NerdioCon is we put together a blog, and lots of people read this blog. It's been reshared. We've had massive amount of interest in it. And the purpose behind this blog was simply to help people who are trying to move from where they are to the Microsoft stack with AVD or Windows 365. And we put together this blog, which was talking about how Nerdio and Liquid can do that. I mean, Gavin, what were your thoughts when we were putting the blog post together originally?
Yeah, look, so there's lots of customers out there who, they have that strategic relationship with Microsoft. They have a lot of their technology stack already in Microsoft. And with the changes in the kind of VDI space and how well Microsoft are progressing their DAS and
Oh yeah,
virtualization
yeah,
offerings, right? Customers are very interested and keen to understand if now is the time for them to make that change. You know, if the balance has tipped to where that solution is mainstream, and it very much has become mainstream, Ben. And I think there's this inherent excitement in the market with
yeah,
customers
massively.
in the kind of community in the space, that's now the kind of lightning rod.
Absolutely. You know what? Most of the conversations I'm having with Liquid is around transitions. It's around people who are on a journey. And most organizations we talk to right now, people are on a journey. Either it's Windows 10 to Windows 11, or it's
Yes,
it's it's Citrix to ABD, or Horizon to something else, or something to Intune. We're
yeah,
seeing a lot of that. Everybody is on a journey, and I think that's why this stuff that we're doing right now, Gavin, is really really critical, because it's the hot thing that everyone's talking about, and hopefully the blog that we put together helped a lot of people make up their mind about the direction of travel, or at least help them a little bit.
exactly, and that's it. That's all we can do is help them along the way, right? And I'm going to be very biased around what that solution looks like, right? And I
You
say that off the
surprised me.
top, right? We at Nerdio, we're all in on Microsoft, right? And I'll bring that bias to the table, but I'll call it out as well, right? These solutions have to be right for the customer,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
there's a natural fit there because of what I mentioned, that they're already invested in that technology stack, whether that be Office 365, whether people have M365 licenses already. They already have that Azure footprint. Some customers might
yes,
even have a Microsoft Azure consumption commitment with Microsoft, and they can leverage our technologies with that. So there is that kind of that motion that's gaining momentum all the time, and that's where we at Nerdio see, as well as partners like yourself, our alliance partners in Liquid, are seeing that momentum. We're seeing that kind of, we need to be there to kind of wrap around that capability and that
yes,
technology, and
100%.
ensure that it is a bridge and a stepping stone into where those customers need to be. you know Taking a step back, there's that cloud transformation that's been going on for that period of time, and this is just another element of that. And it's not necessarily, like I said, I come with biases, but you go back and you read the initial Gartner DAS report, and it's telling you
Mm,
where the cloud workloads are that are out there today, right?
yeah,
And there's a reason that a high percentage of those, a very a very high percentage of those are landing at Microsoft Store and in Azure,
it's the
right?
default. It's become the default destination for everyone. If you're a greenfield site, it's probably going to be the Microsoft stack. If you're transitioning, it's probably going to be the Microsoft Cloud stack. And I think that's where we are right now. Okay, this is the default, and if we can help people make that migration into the Microsoft stack, fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant. Shall we have a quick look at that blog post that we put together, Gavin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go, and hopefully everybody can see this. Can you see that, Gavin?
Yeah, I can see that. Looks good.
Perfect. So we'll publicize the link afterwards, so you can have a look at this. Now, this blog post was originally written, and it focused on migrating from Citrix to AVD. And that's just based on the number of conversations that, I mean, certainly I'd been having with a lot of customers. I don't know about you, Gavin, if you're having similar sort of conversations, but it doesn't have to be Citrix. Okay, this could be whichever platform that an organization is on, migrating to AVD. As Gavin said, it is sort of the top destination that we're seeing right now. So what we thought we'd do for this webinar is bring this blog post to life. We'll go through these different steps and these different capabilities that Nerdio and Liquid have, and how we can help people bridge across to AVD. So you can see in the blog, we've got lots of different subsections and paragraphs: crossing the chasm, closing feature gap. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick up on each of these individual sections, and we're going to show you what these different pieces look like. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will pick them up afterwards, or we'll answer them during the conversation. So, right, the first one we've got here then, Gavin, this one is for you. Nerdio, smarter UI and dashboarding. Do you want to provide a really quick summary of that, and then show us what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great stuff, Ben. Yeah, so I think when customers are going to AVD and into the Microsoft technology stack, they need insights into what's happening in the environment. They need that kind of dashboarding to see, what host pools they have, to see what sessions are live within the environment. They also need to understand their costings, and that's a big part.
It's huge.
It's huge,
absolutely
right?
Huge.
FinOps is becoming more and more relevant in this virtualization space, right? And that's something that I'm learning all the time and reassessing all the time, of just how much of a key element that FinOps piece is. So giving the organizations a clear visualization into the costings and the breakdown of the costings becomes really kind of key and critical.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the three buckets that kind of Nerdio can give and show. And what I'll do is I'll share now kind of my Nerdio lab and kind of show you some examples of that. Right now, it won't be the most compelling stuff because it's an empty lab, right? It's a lab. There's not that many users.
This is what people are tuned in for, Gavin. They want to see you in the lab. Okay.
They want to see the lab.
Let's see that magic.
I need to get my white lab coat and crazy scientist wig. But
I thought that was a crazy lab coat.
Yeah, it pretty much is. So
take it away.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. I can see it.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so this is kind of the workspaces dashboard here, where we can see your various workspaces within that, and inside of that you can see all of the various host pools that you might have. Okay, they include dynamic host pools, static host pools, and our new hybrid host pools, which is Azure Stack HCI, which is going to be a big tipping point for customers reassessing if AVD is a viable solution for them, now that we can have a leg out into their own data center, and we just treat that like another host pool, right? It's very, very easy and slick to kind of set up quickly the host pools in the same way as you would in cloud. And again, we bring, I may as well mention it, we'll be talking about it in a little bit, but we bring our auto scaling that we have for the cloud to the on-prem host pools as well, which is great because there's still that consumption model. But going back to kind of the dashboarding, Ben, right? It's very important. If we look up here, I have my kind of overall dashboard where we will see kind of the high level of what's in the environment, how many users, how many host pools,
I love that,
and so on, right? So you have that one kind of high level view of the amount of users, the concurrent users, the cost per user, and things like that. So you get that kind of one-stop shop view, which is really good. And we're going to continue to build on this and add to this and maybe tweak what that looks like.
I really like that.
Without giving spoiler alerts, Ben, but watch this space, right?
I'm sure everyone's got an NDA, Gavin.
Yeah, exactly.
I
right?
love that. I'm all a very visual person. I love the fact you can trend and you can grab all this analysis. I really like
that. Exactly. So you can be seeing how many users, right? And that's even a hard question sometimes to come by in the Microsoft native. How many users are using this on an ongoing basis? What's my highest concurrency of users and so on? So you get this in one kind of quick snapshot dashboard. And then if we look at the user cost attribution dashboard, this is where things get really clever and interesting, because we can break down the infrastructure costs as well as the session details. Again, not that compelling because it's all $0, but you get the idea, right? And down here you can see a breakdown of all of the users in here and what their cost is, among the different components. So you think of the value that automatically gives to your IT operations manager, who they can go back to the business, back to their leadership, back to the kind of FinOps team and kind of show, look, this is the breakdown. We also have the Power Host Pool cost breakdown as well. The other great thing that we have here is an integration with Power BI, where customers can push all this out to a lovely looking Power BI dashboard and build out that dashboard. Some of our customers actually do clever things like build out a cost center based dashboard and kind of link users to cost centers, and there's all clever things that they can do in Power BI to really make this data valuable, right? It's all about that data and giving that insights, right?
Cost is one of the biggest concerns that people have, and whenever anything is subscription based, they're always going to have some sort of cost concerns. You've done really well there, Gavin, because you've covered off one of your later points in the blog post too around cost optimization. So that's efficiency. Right. That's efficiency.
There we go. There we go. That's what we're all about on Nerdio, right? There's so much. There's so much that we can do. Exactly. There's so much that we can do around that space, and we'll come back to kind of some of that cost optimization.
Brilliant.
I suppose the other interesting thing that we can show in here is the user sessions view. Okay. Now again. It's not compelling. I don't have anybody live in the demo now, but by the power of imagination,
me, Gavin.
Exactly. By the power of imagination, this is where you could see your sessions, your active sessions in there, and this drop-down menu over here then lets you take actions on those sessions. Things like shadowing the session, resetting the user's profiles, logging the user off, etc., right? All of that, and you can break that down by host pool, etc., and you can see all of that data. Again, we can. I think in the blog we had a better screenshot with active sessions in there that people can kind of take a look at it and see what it looks like for real when it's populated. But
the reason this is so powerful is because the dashboarding is something that people have become used to in the likes of Citrix. They're used to seeing all this information in one place. Okay, and it looks like Nerdio is bringing that back and providing that for your AVD and your Windows 365 estate. So that's why I really like this stuff. I think it's a key capability that's been brought back for people who are making that transition. I really like that, Gavin.
Exactly. And one thing that I'll leave on this topic with Ben is, if I was to say what are the top three internal focuses from a product and development perspective, Ben, this year at Nerdio, I would say somewhere in that top three is dashboarding, and sooner rather than later you're going to see some even more compelling things that I've kind of seen just in the last 2 days. I've kind of seen some previews of, and I think people are going to be blown away. But that's all I can say.
Tell me after the webinar. Tell me after. Exactly. Right, I promise not to share it. Definitely won't put it on LinkedIn. Right, great stuff. Thank you very much. Thanks
no worries.
If I jump back onto the blog and go on to the next part here, let me just bring this up. So that was a really, really comprehensive coverage there of the dashboard and the UI, and a little bit of a bonus around cost optimization. So nice one. So the next piece we had was around context-aware application delivery. Okay. Now this is a massive piece for a lot of organizations. You think about it, you have certain applications that maybe you've been delivering previously, and those applications have only been available to users on certain devices or in certain locations or on certain geos. That is one of the capabilities that Liquid brings back into this play, because Liquid has context-aware capabilities. It can change the application. Yeah, well, exactly. It can change the application that's being delivered. It can change the way the application is being delivered, all based on telemetry from the user, from the device, from the context. Okay, and this is where I get to show you a little bit of magic. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen, my Windows 11 machine with my launcher. You can see that, can't you, Gavin?
Yeah, it looks good.
All the technology is working today, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm talking about the Teams technology, obviously.
Sure.
So I'm actually logged on as my wife. Okay, she knows I've stolen her identity. Okay?
Whoa,
She's just
whoa.
I know.
We need to unpack that.
After the webinar. So I'm logged in as a demo user who's called Angie, and it's at my demo domain, and I've stolen her picture and her name. She knows. So in this case, okay, she's got the launcher and she's got shortcuts on the desktop. Now, Gavin, when Angie clicks on Word, what do you think will happen?
I would hope that Word is going to launch.
Oh, let's see. Look at that. You guessed right. You get a round of applause. Look at that. Fantastic.
There we go.
You are exactly right. Word has launched. And look, when I click on it on the desktop as well, something amazing is going to happen. Do you know what it's going to launch?
I would hope the same thing.
well, yeah, exactly. What it's going to do is it's going to launch Word. Not quite sure why that's taking so long to launch Word. That should be, there we go. Fantastic. Usually it's much quicker than that. Sure. I'm going to blame Teams. So yeah, exactly. It's launched Word. Okay. Now that's exactly what we expected it to do. But imagine that this is a laptop and Angie takes this out of the office and she takes it to a coffee shop. What you can do is you can change the way that Word is being delivered. So what you can see in front of you now, hopefully, is the admin console, okay, which is actually the launcher. But because I'm logged in as an admin, then I have access to the management tab. So I can click on packages. I can scroll down. You can see all the packages I've got in my environment there. And then I can find Word. Now, this is one of the really cool capabilities of the platform. Now, one of the questions that we tend to get all the time is how Liquid integrates into Intune. Okay.
Yeah.
A fair question. And our answer is our delivery mechanism is completely outside of Intune. And the reason behind that is that we can push out changes to an application instantly, in real time. Every change that you make to a workflow, every change you make to an application takes place instantly. If you want to push out a new application or an update, it's absolutely instant. Okay. Intune is an incredible product, but sometimes when you're trying to make changes, it can take a while. So let me show you how quick this can do.
And Ben, to be fair, right, Intune, fantastic platform,
amazing
fantastic product, right? But if you go, and look in any of the threads or on Twitter or anything like that, one of the biggest challenges that people have is that mechanism of delivering the applications and how long that takes, right?
Exactly. So that's why we have a standalone delivery mechanism. So we clicked on, Angie clicked on Word, and what happened was it launched Word locally. Now, some really interesting stuff happening here. Okay, so if Word wasn't already installed, Liquid would install Word. So seamlessly in the background, transparent to the end user, it would install Word, little progress bar, and then it would launch as you'd expect.
Sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to change what happens. Okay, so let me take this. So open Word in VMware Horizon, open Word in browser. We've got some AVD packages too, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take open Word in browser, drag it to the top, and then take this new workflow and drop it straight into production. And that's it done. I'm just looking over my camera now, Gavin. So that's it done. So I can go back in as the user, as Angie. And now if I go to Word, you can see I've got this little asterisk next to the Word icon. So when I click on Word this time, what it's going to do is it's going to log me on to Word in the browser.
Nice.
Instant change, absolutely instant change. And we can change that based on automatic data coming back from the endpoint. So it's in a different geo, it's in a different subnet, it's on a different device. Well, okay, in that case, launch it as an AVD publish application or install it locally. Or maybe there's a line of business application that the user is only allowed to access while they're on the corporate.
Under certain conditions.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So as soon as that particular condition goes away, and we've got all sorts of conditions in here, I can click on filters. Let me click on this. So I can go into browser, open Word in browser, I can click on filters, and I can create multiple different filters to decide when, how, and what to launch. So you can make all sorts of changes. Your user can move around the world on different devices, and based on all of that context, you will only get the application that you want the user to have. Or maybe you don't want them to get that particular application, and that will disappear from their launcher. So that's the context aware capabilities we've got. This is completely dynamic. This is completely filters and context based, and we have a whole load of more granular detail you can put around that if you need to. So yeah, that is the context aware capabilities that we have, and we can do this massively with Azure and AVD, and make sure you get those AVD applications based on who the user is and what the particular context is.
Ben, that's so important, right? In kind
yeah.
of the modern way of working, right? Hybrid work isn't going anywhere, right? That's become the norm, you know. People like ourselves, we might be the exception, right? Yeah, we're mobile, right? We'll work from, you know, trains, from hotels, from offices, from home, you know,
garden.
Coffee shop, garden, sun is out, right? And so it's so important to be able to lock down those applications and that access based on the context of the user and based on what the organization's risk level and risk tolerance is, right?
Compliance is absolutely huge in this space, in end user computing, and the ability to be able to do that. And Gavin, you know this, we've had multiple customers, prospects come to us and say, look, we're trying to do this right now. How can we do that? And the answer has been, well, Liquid with Nerdio, obviously, to get you onto AVD, to give you these capabilities. So let's move on to the next part of the blog, Gavin, and let me share my screen. And that's where we have Nerdio and image management. So do you want to take that away? Give us a quick intro and then show us.
Absolutely. So I guess the big thing for me, Ben, with this one is, you know, images are a fundamental part of delivering your virtual desktops and virtual applications, and kind of managing and building those images and managing the life cycle of those images are really key to anything that we do, right? And it's crucial. And to do that natively in AVD, it's kind of a cumbersome approach. You know, it can take, you know, anywhere from a couple of hours to even more per image, right? It's a very manual approach of 10 to 12 steps per image. That's time consuming. Nerdio can kind of shorten that down to a couple of minutes per image.
I mean, that is massive. I mean, this is one of the pieces where Liquid also, with the application deployment onto those images, can work really well. And we have customers right now who have AVD and Nerdio are using Liquid to deploy those applications and Nerdio to manage the images. Show us.
Exactly. So let's take a look at.
Let's see, Gavin. Put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. So let's take a look at that. So you can see Nerdio again, yeah? Excellent. So if we go to our desktop images, I have a couple of options here. I can add from an Azure VM an existing image, or I can add from Azure Library. So let's call this Gav image. Let's select the network, the subnet that we want that on. Let's select the kind of base image, and the base image can be a previous image that I've configured. It can be a marketplace image. It can be an image, a custom image, or it can be an image from your compute gallery. So for now, we'll just pick a generic image, okay? Then we can select our VM size, okay, in here. So this is just your kind of base VM for your images, so the standard size is okay. OS disk, again, I'll give it a premium just to give us that bit of speed. And then I can select the resource group that I want that in. I have the option to select the different security types, so it can be trusted launch or confidential computing. They're grayed out because I don't have my compute gallery turned on. You see they're available now.
This is so much easier than the default.
You think of the default, Ben, right? And how much kind of pain. And then, you know, I have the option to join to AD. We'll uncheck that unless there's a specific use case. I'll give my my correct time zone at Dublin. And then from there, I can install certificates for app attach. I can add in local credentials here so that I can log on like we do in the Azure portal. But Nerdio allows you to kind of set that up as a template and it just goes on automatically. I can add it to the compute gallery. I can run PowerShell scripts at this time from the PowerShell library, and I can install some apps from our unified application management suite as well.
I love the fact this is all on one page.
It's one page, right? It's a
Yeah,
simple,
I like
it's a
that.
simple thing to kind of layer on top. And, I can be, running a script here from in terms of an optimization script, for example, configure Teams optimization. I can install an app from one of our repositories that we can hook into, like Winget, SCCM, and so on. Of course, Liquid can do that over and above with that contextual access as well, right? So all of that, one seamless page. I hit OK, and off it goes, and it will create that VM it's going to create that desktop VM, that desktop image. And the thing that I love about Nerdio, Ben, is that it's all logged down the bottom here, so you can see who
Ah,
has created that. And if I click on details, it'll show me all the API calls that we're
yeah.
leveraging between Nerdio and Microsoft. Okay,
That
and
seems
then
so simple. I like that.
it's
It's so much
it's so
easier.
seamless, right? And then you get your VM.
Yeah.
If I use this one that I created earlier, like Art Attack or Blue Peter, um, it has
That's
an
a blast
IP
from the past,
address.
isn't it?
There you go, right? I have my IP address. I can jump on here and I can generate my RDP file and
Yeah.
log on to that machine and make any changes that I need to do on there. And then I can go ahead and set as image. And again, this is the part where to do this manually, you're talking about
Oh,
maybe hours of work per image, right?
yeah. I've tried.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I can schedule this to happen on a repeated basis as well. So,
Okay.
I can schedule this to happen weekly or monthly or even monthly after Patch Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, right? So I can hit run now, and then that will go off and it will set the image. And again, it'll run through that. It'll take about 15 minutes. So,
I like that schedule feature there, Gavin, because
so the
potentially,
schedule feature is so
yeah.
good, right?
Well, potentially, if you're also using Liquid to deploy those applications onto your AVD Gold image, when you're scheduling this, Liquid can update those applications automatically for you.
Exactly. And then in terms of the OS updates, right, I have the
Yeah.
option to come down here and run the script, set that on a schedule. And let's look at the clever
Ah,
script that we have here around, say, Windows 11. So I've scheduled that, and I can schedule that to happen monthly, one day after Patch Tuesday. Hit save and close, and every month after Patch Tuesday, that's
it
going to
will do
go
those
and
updates.
run the updates.
Yeah, and that's
It's
where we
that
can
simple.
link Liquid into that as well.
Link
I love
Liquid
that.
into that, push your apps down, and
And then the application updates. I really like that. I think that's a match made in heaven there,
we
Gavin. I
can
mean,
automate
we're
that whole life
biased.
cycle. We're so biased, right? But this is a
Yeah.
game changer for some organizations who are
Oh,
doing this
yeah.
manually. I've had customers ask me, can we get this part, this aspect of the product as a standalone to use with other
Yeah.
platforms, right? That's how compelling I think this part of it is, and it's that simple. It's one menu to create your image VM, and then it's
Yeah.
one menu to capture that image and grab that VM that then you can apply to your
I
host
really
tools.
like that. I really
It's
like that.
simple, slick, and easy.
Well, you know what, Gavin? Now, while we've been talking about application management, I think it makes sense to talk about the next part of the blog post, which
Sure.
is, I mean, we're talking about image management, obviously, and operating system management and application management, but I think
Yeah.
that brings us really nicely onto this part of the blog post that we did.
Yes.
So, liquid and application management, okay? Because we do some absolutely incredible stuff around application management. Now, obviously, I put that reasonably complicated figure eight diagram into the blog
Sure. Yeah.
because I love visuals, okay, and I'm quite
Yeah.
proud of this. That's why I put it in. But I'm going to actually show you, and showing you the demonstration of this stuff is actually even more compelling than what I've just got there. Okay, so one of the key things. Let me go back into here. Hopefully, you can see my screen, can't you, Gavin?
Yeah. Can see that. Looks good.
Brilliant. One of the really key USPs we have in the Liquid platform is around the ability to make application deployment almost disappear as something that you need to do as a manual process. So
Yeah.
obviously we have those filters that you just saw. Okay, we have automation in the engine too to automate deployment. But what we have, I'm going to show you this. So if I click on the Liquid Setup Store, I'm not going to go into connectors in this webinar. That's a separate session. But we have connectors that will connect into third-party application repositories. Now,
Nice.
the one that we have, I mean, you can see them in here. In fact, I can click
Yeah.
on Create here, and just very quickly, you can see that we've got AVD.
Yeah.
So pulling those applications, Nerdio's managing the AVD backend. We can pull those applications, all those individual AVD published applications, or even full-on desktop, shared desktops, Windows 10, Windows 11 multi-session. We can do all of that and surface all of that experience into the Liquid launcher. But what I'm going to show you here is the Liquid setup store. So if I click on resources, this is where we have, at the moment, well, we have thousands of applications in here. Okay,
Sure.
This is the most comprehensive curated app store in the industry, and it's so comprehensive and so well thought of that we've got 4 key vendors who use some of our data. I can't say who they are, unfortunately, on this webinar.
Sure.
I don't think everyone's got an NDA in the audience, have they? You've checked. Okay, so
I've checked.
But you can see we've got thousands of applications.
Yeah.
And some organizations we've spoken to recently, we have anywhere from 50% coverage of their existing apps to 100%. I mean, that took me by surprise. I mean, at the moment, we've got around about 4,500 Windows applications. That's going up all the time. Yeah. Very shortly, in version 4.2, we'll be introducing Mac OS applications too.
Oh, wow.
Plus portable applications. So potentially this year, very soon this year, we'll have well over 5,500 applications in the Liquid Setup Store. The really cool thing about these applications is it's so easy to get them. If you've got Adobe or you've got Chrome or you've got Edge or anything like that, you can simply go into the Liquid Setup Store, subscribe to the application and deploy it across thousands of endpoints. Okay, or if you're using AVD, you can put it onto your gold images. Now, the very, very cool thing about the Liquid Setup Store, let me just do release date. So this version of the store that I'm using my demo environment, I last connected Tuesday, May the 14th. Okay, but what this does is this will show you the applications we've updated. Okay, now in your live version of the Liquid Setup Store, you will see this right up to the hour that you're looking at it. As soon as a third-party vendor updates their applications, it goes into the Liquid Setup Store. Let's say Google updates Chrome. We will have that update very, very quickly in the Liquid Setup Store. We are updating, I mean, when I've done this research, we're updating roughly 300 to 400 applications a week. And that's because the vendors are updating them. Yep. One of the key things we have in the UK is Cyber Essentials Plus certification.
Cyber Essentials, yeah.
I know you would have come across that, Gavin.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
All the customers you're talking to, they'd be like, One of the things that that Cyber Essentials Plus suggests, heavily recommends but doesn't mandate, is that you update your applications within 14 days of the vendor releasing an update. That's almost impossible. That's a very
challenge.
I mean, first off, how do you know your vendor's updated the application? Liquid will do that.
Yeah.
As soon as the vendor releases an application, we will have that update in our store very quickly. Yeah. And you can automate the deployment of that application. I mean, let's choose one of these, shall we? I don't know, which one of these looks good that we can potentially deploy? What's NetBird? Any ideas?
No idea, Ben, but I'll trust you.
Yeah, let's grab it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that straight into production. You can push it in development, test, acceptance. I'm going to push this into production because why not?
Yeah.
Click on next.
We like to live on the edge.
One of the things we do, oh, exactly, on the wild side. One of the things that we will do as well is we'll check to see if there's any critical vulnerabilities outstanding or fixed in this release. And if there's any malware, we'll also list that. Wow, we do multiple malware checks. We do CVE checks against these applications too. Click on next. For certain applications, we have also surfaced any additional configuration directly into the UI. I know nothing about NetBird. It probably doesn't have a great deal you can do. No. But if it's Chrome or if it was Adobe or Autodesk or something like that, you'd have a whole page of settings you could just select rather than having an admin template or an answer file. It's all done through the GUI. So click next. And this is where we can set entitlements. This is very cool. So we could say Azure AD group. Here we go. So let's search for Office users. Yeah. Now again, this is a demo environment. Maybe it's going to go slow. Sometimes this goes slow for me. That doesn't happen in production. Here we go.
We can only control so much, right?
Exactly. Office users, Azure AD group. Angie is actually in that group. So I'm going to push this into production. I'm going to put this directly into Angie's workspace, and I'm going to create a desktop and start menu icon. Click on confirm, click next, and click finish. That's then going to pull the application from the Liquid Setup Store into my zone. And by the way, it's a SaaS hosted in Azure. So this is pulling this particular package from Liquid Setup Store into my tenant, into my zone. And then what it's going to do is it's going to make it available for Angie. So when Angie goes into her workspace, here we go, it's there. So if I click on this from Angie's local machine, if I then click on refresh, then you'll see the new NetBird icon appear, and you'll see it on the desktop.
quick
So
and easy and simple.
exactly. Now I haven't forced this. All I've done is I've said deploy it to the workspace. First time she clicks on it, it's going to do an install, and then it will install in the background, and then it will launch. Again, I know nothing about this application. I chose it at random. I don't know what it's going to do. But we've had multiple customers who have had certain applications they've never been able to get working using Liquid. I mean, doing a demo for them. We've got it installed and working within 5 minutes.
Wow.
So that's how powerful this is. Now, if there's an update, great, we can just update those applications so seamlessly, because I can go into connectors, go into Liquid Setup Store, click on updates, and these are all the updates that are pending for applications that I have in the Liquid Setup Store. Let me just do this. Liquid Setup Store updates. There we go. So you can see the updates for those applications I've got in the Liquid Setup Store, or I could just automate the deployment. If you've got a gold image, AVD gold image, then you can update those applications that come from the Liquid Setup Store automatically as soon as you open that image back up for updates. Potentially a PowerShell script as well that you execute via Nerdio could also talk to Liquid and then update those applications. Absolutely. The application management piece is absolutely incredible in the Liquid platform. So, any questions, Gavin?
Well, the biggest question I have is how much has Angie received for her name and likeness being used, and do we at Nerdio owe her a fee as well?
Oh yes, you do. No, I was going to say nothing. If I was on the hook for it, it was going to be nothing. But no, loads, like millions.
Okay,
millions, good, absolutely.
Good. Once we're sorted. No, look, I think it's fantastic, Ben. I think just showing how quick and easy and seamless it is to get those applications where they need to be into the Liquid portal, is fantastic. And from a Nerdio perspective, there's two integrations there, right? It's one, you can help with building out your golden images, but it's also then when you're delivering out your desktops and your remote apps, the consumption side, right? You can hook that in as something in the Liquid store, not the Liquid workspace.
Exactly. And potentially going back to the early contextual piece, maybe sometimes that application, NetBirds, is you want it to be locally installed, but other times you want it to launch as a published application from AVD, and it will do that for you. It doesn't have to be a one size fits all.
Exactly.
So, let's just, conscious of time here, Gavin, let's move on to the next section of this, which is auto scaling and optimization. You've covered a little bit of auto scaling already.
Yeah. This is where we can kind of really get fun. Ben,
let's see.
So let's see, right? So let's take one of our host pools. Okay, so we have our host pool in here. I'll use my Dublin host pool. We'll go to our auto scale setting and we'll configure that. Now, this is configured as part of the setup wizard of the host pool, but I can come in here and edit and change that. So the first thing that we can do in here is the stopped OS disk type. So when we're scaling our machines, again, this comes back into the cost saving element, but it's worth talking about both at the same time here, Ben. One, to save time on the webinar, but two, because they work hand in glove together. So the first thing that we can do is, when we have the stopped OS disk type, we change that to standard HDD, and that's going to lead to a big cost savings, because when those machines are off, you don't want to be paying for that premium disk. You're still charged for that disk when the machine's off. Nerdio, when we're powering down the machine, simply swap out that disk. No impact to the user. User never knows it's happening. It's all happening in the background. Okay, so that's the first important thing. Secondly, we have a default schedule and we have an alternative schedule. So Ben, I love the alternative schedule because it acts as an override. So some customers will use the override for weekends, for example, if they want different behavior, but it's also dated as well. So if you have the Easter holidays or over Christmas,
so or out of band sort of, right? I like that, Gavin.
Exactly, and that can be all date and time sensitive. Okay, so that's your alternative schedule, and you can build out different settings for that. Going back to the default schedule, we set our host pool properties. So how many sessions per host, okay? So you can limit that, and we can then load balance that depth first or breadth first, okay? So that's the first thing. Next, we can set the host pool sizing. So we can say, there's 5 machines in this pool. There's one that's on 24/7, and then there's 20 machines that we can burst to. So that means in total, this can be 25 machines. You can't do this in AVD natively, right? So think of that snow day or that rail strike day,
Yeah.
when suddenly more users need to access the platform, or that one team that just took on 20 third-party users that they forgot to tell you that you needed more capacity into
Yeah.
that.
All been there. Yeah.
We've all been there, right? So this now all of a sudden can go up to 25 machines, but there's only ever five exist. The rest just are spun up on the fly. That's going to save you on the OS disk as well, right? As well as the other components. So that's really clever. Next is the scaling logic, and we can get really clever. We can scale based on CPU, RAM usage, average active sessions, available sessions, be user driven, or it can be a combination because we have the ability to do multiple triggers. So I can do that based on CPU and RAM, for example, and it's as easy as that. I like to show the available sessions because it's the one that's kind of closest to how Microsoft natively does it. We can maintain up to X available sessions. So, I can say always have 3 sessions available. So we always, when user number 2 logs onto the first box, the second box gets spun up and ready to go. So we always keep a buffer of sessions available, which is really clever,
This is a
right?
complete wrap then, isn't it? It's a
It's
complete wraparound for
complete
AVD.
wraparound. It's a
Yeah.
complete wraparound. This is the management bubble. This
Yeah.
is the
I
alternative,
love
and
it.
this is the most granular scaling
Yeah.
capability out there in the market, right? And likewise, we turn those machines off whenever they're not in use, and we have different scaling aggressiveness. And this can all be time-based, but I like to say always and any time. That can be during work hours, and you can define what they are,
Yeah.
but customers these days are so cost conscious, they want those machines off whenever they're not in use, right? It depends on your use case.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
also introduced rolling drain mode now. I love rolling drain mode, right?
Uh,
The penny is dropping, right, Ben? So you
yeah.
think
Yeah.
2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, everybody starts kind of logging out of their
Yeah.
AVT
Yeah.
sessions. You start putting things into drain mode. They can't get new connections. We might say it's 60% of machines going to drain mode. They don't get new connections. They're faster in theory to shut down. Plus, then we can change the load balancing as well. So if in the load balancing you had been breadth
That
first in
makes
the day,
sense.
so that
That's
you
clever.
kind of do it equally, you can change it now to be depth first and to just fill
Yeah.
up the boxes that are available. It's clever stuff, right, Ben? The
How many
guys have thought of
licenses can I?
everything.
I'll buy a license, Gavin.
Yeah,
I'll buy a
exactly.
license.
I think I'll buy one myself. I've sold it to myself. And then this is the one where I really love it. And universities love this. Hospitals and kind of healthcare organizations love this. It's the scheduling. So it's
Yeah.
pre-scheduling the machines for that burst, that log on storm in the morning. And I can use multiple schedules to do that. So, I can get very granular and I can say, Monday to Friday at 10, I need one machine. I can say on a Tuesday at, 11, I need 5 machines and so on. And I can keep building that out. There's no limit to how much I can build that out. So I can really schedule this out and do it based on both schedule and performance, right? We can scale up and down based on a multitude of different things. And then last but not least, we can auto heal as well in here, and I'll cover that while we're in here. So based on if the machine is unavailable or in a failed state, there's no heartbeat, I can run recovery actions. So things like reinstalling the AVD agent, for example, and I can run through an if then else kind of model to bring those machines back online.
Yeah, I like that. Okay.
It's simple, it's easy. I click save and close, those machines
done.
build up, it's done, job done. Make sure
I
to
really
turn it
like that.
on.
Perfect.
Turn it on at
Nice.
the end, save and close. Job done, Ben.
Remember to turn it on.
Remember to
simple?
turn it on.
How can you turn it on?
How can you get any simpler? How can you get any simpler than that, right?
So, Gavin, because of time, what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, I want to wrap up on the migration piece. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
On the blog. So if we just go back into here, then you can see we've got this piece. I mean, at the moment, I'm going to talk a little bit about Liquid, making the migration easy. But this, what we're talking about here is migrating from what you're on onto Nerdio with AVD. Okay, basically that's what we're talking about here. So if I just bring this up, we make it very, very easy to do your migration. If you remember a little bit earlier, I was talking about connectors. Well, that's exactly how we can help you to make that migration. Because using the platform, and again, this is a really extensible cloud-based platform, you can connect into your Citrix estate or your Horizon estate and your Horizon estate. You can connect into your AVD estate as well, that's fronted by Nerdio. And what you can do is you can say, well, I mean, in this case, I've got Horizon, I've got some managed packages in Horizon. You could quite easily say, Well, okay, we've got all of these coming in. For this set of users, what we're going to do first is keep delivering your applications via Citrix or via Horizon.
Yeah.
Then create a connector into AVD with all the applications you've migrated across using Liquid, and then just simply change how those applications are being delivered. So you can simply go in, you can go back into, I'm going to pick on Word again here, Gavin. It's getting quite a beating today, Word, isn't it? But you can go in and you could just say, well, today, maybe we're delivering Word. Let's click on this. We're delivering Word via Horizon. Then what you could say is tomorrow, what we're going to do, I mean, in this case, got AppStream, but let's just pretend that's AVD. Tomorrow, it's going to be delivered via AVD. Thousands of endpoints. Now, for day one, they're using Citrix or Horizon. Day two, they're using AVD fronted by Nerdio. There's nothing you need to do on the endpoint.
So let me get this straight, Ben. So day one, we log into Liquid. Yeah. That app is being, same icon. Exactly. It's been delivered by one platform. Yep. Tomorrow, I spend some time, maybe a week, migrating applications, making sure they work in the next platform, AVD in our example. That's it. Next week, user logs in, same icon, except this time it's delivered over here instead. The
user doesn't even need to know. Everything stays the same. The icons on the desktop, the shortcuts in the launcher, all that's happening is the application is now being delivered by AVD. It's so simple to make that migration because we can hook in to all these different application repositories, bring them together and give them the end users really consistent estate. And we can do that across Windows and across Mac. And we can do this via HTML, so you can even do it via iOS and Android if you want to. So that's the migration piece of this, Gavin. So I think it's probably compelling time to wrap up. I mean, one really quick thing. I mean, we've got Nerdio on-prem or cloud, your choice. For Liquid, this can be completely 100% SaaS-based, or it can be built on-prem. Your call. Okay, and most customers we're speaking to right now want to have all of this sitting in the cloud, and we're happy to oblige. What about on the Nerdio side, Gavin?
Yeah, that's great point, Ben. So from a Nerdio, the platform perspective, that's all deployed via the Azure Marketplace. So customers exclusively deploy Nerdio into their tenant and subscription inside the Azure Marketplace. From a workload perspective, then they can leverage the cloud or standard AVD desktops. But as we mentioned earlier in the webinar, they can also hook in now to AVD on Azure Stack HCI for on-prem workloads as well. So the Nerdio platform itself, it's in customers' own tenant and subscription in AVD. Workloads can be AVD or on-prem Azure Stack HCI.
Perfect. It sounds like the most comprehensive solution out there. We are biased, but this is definitely the best solution stack that you can get. Okay, brilliant. Right. I think we're out of time, Gavin. So I think what we might do is if I just put this blog post on the screen. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go for the blog post. So hopefully you can see the URL in there. Feel free to go along and read that blog post. I think if we stop sharing our cameras, Gavin, we can then check. There we go. What we can then do is we can check to see if there's any questions that are coming via the chat.
Super.
So let's have a look. If there aren't any, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And yeah, any questions that aren't in the chat, feel free to reach out to us. But thank you. Thanks, Gavin.
Thanks, Ben.
Take care, everyone.
Great session. Thank you.